Already won. Never be defeated. Already won. Oh, already won. Never be defeated. Already won. Never be defeated. Already won. Oh, already won. Never be defeated. Already won.
Good morning, everyone. This is John with Gun.Deals, and today we are going to be taking a look at the IWI Tavor X95, which I think is the first real bullpup that I've tried on the channel. So it's a platform and a company that I'm not really familiar with. Now, while you're here, go ahead and press some buttons and stimulate the algorithm. Full disclosure on the X95 is that I have no relationship with IWI. I came into possession of this rifle from a kind viewer of my channel, so I didn't pay for it, but it wasn't sent to me by the company, just an excellent supporter. Now, the X95 was developed, of course, for the Israeli military as the MTAR, and a few other variants as well, and has been in service since 2009. However, apparently, starting in 2021, they began being phased out for, well, M4s and their own M4 style rifles. I wonder why. The rifle we have here is made in Israel and then imported into the US as the X95. Now, getting into basics of the X95, we of course have a 16-inch bullpup rifle. These do come in 18-inch and 13-inch SBR variations, both good barrel lengths, but I think the 16-inch does everything that you want it to do. Now, with the bullpup, the magazine is behind the fire control group, and that allows you to go from a roughly 32-inch overall length all the way down to 26.2. That's the main advantage, having that shorter length, but as we'll get into, it comes with a host of downsides. Starting out front, these come with a non-standard birdcage flash hider and a jam nut. I swapped it out for a Reardon Shorty flash hider and a Plan B mount, which I'm going to use for a suppressor, which we'll talk about that a little later on. The barrel is very thin post the gas block, and overall is a very slim profile as they needed to keep the weight down. However, the barrel is chrome lined, cold hammer forged, and probably 4150 chrome moly vanadium or similar. The twist is 1 in 7, and it is of course chambered in 5.56, though 300 blackout and 9mm kits are available. Now, talking about the receiver slash shell, it is a polymer metal hybrid. We have a continuous top Picatinny rail section and of course a shorter rail on the bottom. Now, as you can probably tell just by looking at it, the real estate for mounting lights, lasers, optics, etc. is somewhat limited, so you really need to think about what and how you're going to mount everything before you just start throwing things on, and we'll get into my setup towards the end. Inside the receiver, we have a long stroke piston system, meaning that the carrier and op rod are one piece, same gas system as you would find on, say, an AK. The carrier rides on 2 guide rods, one of them retaining your substantial recoil spring. Now, talking about the bolt and carrier for a moment, it's also a hybrid between an AR and an AK. I would actually say it's closer to an AK with the larger locking lugs. The bolt is also spring-loaded, probably doesn't matter much in semi-auto. Disassembly is super easy. There's one pin in the back and the butt pad simply pops out of the way and you can pull the guts out in one piece. Dotted over the receiver are QD points for mounting your slings, and one of them is reversible if you are left-handed. Speaking of which, the ejection port can also be swapped to either side, and they make a left-handed version. That plastic port cover does cause some issues though that we'll get to a little bit later on. Now, something that I haven't mentioned is that it comes with built-in flip-up sights that integrate with the top rail section. They seem usable, but that being said, I didn't use them and don't really plan to, but they could be used in an emergency. So now let's talk about controls. We do have a non-reciprocating charging handle that can be swapped to either side. It is contoured very well and easy enough to grab even if you have gloves on. The safety selector is a 90-degree throw and is similar in placement and feel to an AR, which is great. That's kind of what we're looking for. We also have a ambi mag release that is positioned much like an AR-15, which again is nice. It is a little stiffer than an AR mag release, but of course you have your little magazine goblin running back and forth to the magwell. The X95 also has a super interesting bolt catch/release. When the magazine runs out and the bolt gets held to the rear, this tab pops out on the bottom and you simply depress it to get it back into battery. You can also push it in the opposite direction to lock the bolt back manually. Now let's get to the trigger, the much maligned Bullpup trigger. Well, fortunately on mine, I have the Geisley trigger pack, so it's actually pretty good. The total pull weight seems to be about 4.5 pounds with a 2-stage style pull. You have a little bit of take up onto a soft, spongy wall, and then just a little bit of creep till you get the trigger to break and the hammer to fall. The reset is soft and a little longer than I would like, but overall not bad. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and with some practice I should be able to get those splits down. Overall, pleasantly surprised for a Bullpup trigger. Keep in mind that it is aftermarket. Now, total package weight comes in at 8 pounds empty, which is nearly 2 pounds heavier than a traditional AR. As we'll get to later, it's a big penalty for the shorter length. Now let's talk about shootability. Keep in mind the base weight of 8 pounds, which is probably 11 or 12 when fully set up and loaded. It shoots really well. It's gassed well, the recoil impulse is smooth, combined with the short length and heavy weight, it's a very flat shooting rifle. I was surprised how nice it felt to shoot. Again, if I get more time with the trigger, I should be able to run this very quickly because of that short length combined with the soft recoil. It's very easy to transition from target to target and keep it on target when you're there. Now, when we add a suppressor into the mix, well, something I neglected to mention earlier on purpose is that there is no adjustment on the piston system. So while it's tuned well for unsuppressed shooting, adding a non-flow-through style can is going to send your bolt carrier into hyperspace. It's sort of comical how much it increases the bolt velocity. Even so, recoil is still fine, just a little bit more punchy. Keep in mind that it's near 12 pounds. But the main issue is the fact that it takes all that extra gas and dumps it straight into your lungs. The gas system is very short, and remember on a Bullpup it's much closer to the shooter's face, and on top of that you also have open ports right next to your head via the left side ejection port. Keep in mind that it is not sealed off, so with that ejection port it does eject straight into your face, and it will gas you out in just a couple of rounds. Not only is it unhealthy, but it's super uncomfortable getting washed in the back pressure every time you pull the trigger. Now, I did some research and there are a couple options to improve the situation. You can get an ejection port gasket that seals up that hole completely and of course limits the gas coming back to your face. You can also get a enhanced power recoil spring to slow the bolt down when you're suppressed. There are some other options out there as well, but those two seem to be the main players. Now, something I haven't tested yet is accuracy. I did take it out to a couple hundred yards without issue, but I have heard that these don't shoot very good groups. That super skinny barrel probably isn't helping much either. At some point I will throw on an LPVO or higher magnification scope and throw down some groups and see how we do. So talking about how I have mine set up currently, I have a BCM 13 slot half-inch riser. You do need a riser for most optics on Bullpups, or at least I find them much more comfortable with a riser, and I will probably swap this one out for a taller one later on. Now, on the riser, I currently have a Vector 8T derivative that is only okay, and I also have a 4-in-1 light laser IR illuminator and IR laser unit hooked up to a single button switch. I have a video coming out soonish on the unit itself, so don't worry about that. It's pretty decent, but don't buy one. At the back, I still have enough room to mount a magnifier if I wanted to, but since I'm probably swapping out to a different riser in the future, I left that blank for now. Overall, it does give me the daylight, white light, and of course IR capability that I want with a red dot. Now, you could obviously swap that out for a little bit more magnification if you wanted. There are other setups that I think work really well. I think a ACOG with a top-mounted dot would also be a really good solution. And of course, you can mix and match to your heart's content. So at the end of the day, we have a roughly $1,800 rifle that is about 1.5 pounds too heavy and shoots okay. It absolutely doesn't compare with ARs in terms of value or performance, but it is shorter, and that's the main benefit. You're gonna sacrifice a lot to get that shorter length, and just keep in mind the downsides. It certainly has a place for the Bullpup curious, but for serious shooters, probably not. There are other newer Bullpups that I would like to get my hands on as well, but that's about all that I got on this one, at least for now. So with all that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of the IWI Tavor X95 in the comments down below. And with all that out of the way, guys, thank you once again for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Peace off.